You're listening to Scribble Talk, a podcast for bid and proposal professionals. My name is Bhaskar Sundaram, and with my co-host Ashley Case, we'll be sitting down with our industry veterans to share their stories, discuss their career, and learn how to make an impact in the industry. Today's guest is Lee Coogle. Lee, the Senior Vice President for Training and Education at Hinz Consulting, has more than 30 years of experience in proposal development and program and contract management. Lee has served in the United States Air Force and then moved to civilian side with stints at Computer Sciences Corporations, the CSC, the 3Com, before becoming an independent proposal consultant in 1991. While most of Lee's career has been in IT and telecoms field, his breadth of experience spans proposals as well as varied as helicopter maintenance to medical waste disposal. Wow. He has supported proposals for DoD, GSA, DHS, DISA, DOI, DLA, FAA, and many other agencies. Lee is a graduate of Clemson University and George Mason University Law School. He was a member of the Virginia Bar from 1991 until 2018. Welcome, Lee, to Scribble Talk. Great to have you with us.
Thank you, Bhaskar.
Lee, let's go back to the very beginning. Let's talk about where were you born, and let's talk about your early school and career.
All right. I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. My parents moved there in 1940 and stayed there until their deaths. So I went to high school there in a suburb of Atlanta.
Got it. Any childhood memories coming along in your mind now?
Oh, wow. It was great. I had 4 older sisters,
Right.
and just had a great childhood. Had some awesome parents, and they taught me well.
That's a lot of blessing there, Lee. I think let's talk about your school and your high school and your university as well, please.
Sure. So I went to a 5-year high school, so it was grades 8 through 12. And while I was in high school, I played football all 5 years.
Wow. Okay.
I wrestled all 5 years.
Wow.
I actually took second in state in wrestling in my senior year. From there, I went to Furman University for 2 years, where I wrestled a year and then was on the diving team for a year. And after 2 years at Furman, I decided it was not a good fit for me and transferred to Clemson University.
Got it. And what did you study at Clemson?
My degree is actually in accounting, which I don't think I've seen a spreadsheet since I graduated, but it doesn't really matter.
No,
it's all about the education and the experience.
That's it. And once you graduated from Clemson, what was your very first job?
My very first job was in the Air Force. I went straight from Clemson to active duty Air Force.
Wow. How long were you there in the Air Force, Lee?
I spent 5 years. 5 years in the Air Force, 2.5 at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and then 2.5 at Andrews Air Force Base in DC area.
Got it. How was that experience of working for the U.S. Air Force?
I had a great experience. I learned a tremendous amount. I had a fabulous boss. He was a general officer. I was a naive second lieutenant going in. I didn't know that a lot of people go through the Air Force careers without seeing a general officer, and I was fortunate enough to be picked up as his aide right out of school. And we had a little deal going. He said that if I did my work, didn't embarrass him, never missed an airplane, I could play as much rugby as I wanted to. So I played a lot of rugby in the Air Force.
Wow, rugby. That's one of my favorite sports. I got injured just 2 days ago playing rugby league. So my knee is bit on with the bandage here.
I can relate to that.
So 5 years in Air Force, and why did you move from Air Force to civilian, and how was the transition moving from the Air Force to the civilian side?
I decided the Air Force really wasn't challenging enough. I wanted to do something a little different. That, and I was also getting married. So I got out of the Air Force and got married in the same month.
Wow. So you have been happily married for over 35, close to 40 years now, Lee. And did the relationship begin before the US Air Force thing, or did you know her before?
No, actually, we met in the Air Force. My wife was also in the Air Force. And when I transferred from Wright-Patterson to Andrews, she was one of the first people I met at Andrews Air Force Base. She was also a lieutenant.
Got it. Love at first sight, as they say.
It was pretty close.
You're happily married ever after. My God, lots of love to you, Lee. So coming back to the civilian side, how did you kind of position yourself? And so obviously you spent 5 years there, but sometimes the experience that you've got in the Air Force or the armed forces tend not to be valued much more in the industry. How did you position yourself, started from scratch again?
Not very well. My father-in-law was not particularly happy because at the time I got married, I actually didn't have a job. But as you said, the Air Force had positioned me well. I was not concerned about it, and just worked my way into the industry, and 3Com picked me up as a marketing professional for Air Force jobs.
Got it. And when you came out of Air Force, what type of roles did you do until 1990s? You just moved on, and talk us through your career timeline, Lee, from then on.
All right. So as I said, my first job was in the Air Force, and there I was actually fortunate enough to work on some pretty cool projects. I was involved in the B-1 bomber, the SR-71, and the U-2 spy planes. Now, this was, I was at headquarters, so I was pushing paper. I really wasn't actually kicking tires with the airplanes, but it was exciting nonetheless. And then I went to Computer Sciences Corporation, and then 3Com came and wooed me away because I had experience with a program called the Local Area Network System. And well, we've come a long way since then. When 3Com laid me off, that's when I went to work consulting for Xerox. Actually, I had my wife to thank for getting me into the proposal world, because in 1990, she was going on maternity leave. And at the time, she was consulting for Xerox. So when she went on maternity leave, I just took her place. And after a few months of doing work with Xerox, I came back and I said, yeah, I'm pretty good at this. I think I'll just do this until something better comes along. And as you said, that was 30 years ago. So for the next 30 years, I went from being a writer to a volume manager to a proposal manager, and working across dozens of companies. And then 5 years ago, my friends, Bill Hinz and Dan Marsh, convinced me to join their company, Hinz Consulting, and I'm now the Executive Vice President for Training and Education.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant, Lee. And you have, as you rightly said, you have done hundreds of proposals. So any proposal or any proposal, small and big, for different reason, comes to mind as a memorable proposal?
Oh, there were a number. Unfortunately, the couple that stick in my mind were because we lost. We put together a fabulous proposal and still lost. One of them, at the debrief, the briefer said that they were ready to sign the contract with us, and then we went over time on our live test demonstration. So a 45-minute glitch in our demonstration lost us the contract. But probably the one that really sticks out to me was the EIS proposal, which is a huge IDIQ proposal that I did the work for CenturyLink. And it wasn't so much the proposal itself, but it was probably the best group of people that I've worked with. It was an extremely collaborative effort, lots of strategic discussions going on, and a lot of give and take, and everybody was open to listening and changing their position if necessary. So it was just a great collaborative effort.
Sounds like a very memorable effort, that one, Lee. And then Yes, you worked as a consultant for a lot of companies, and now joining Hinz, you have been there as a Senior Vice President, Training and Education. Talk us through your role at Hinz and what sort of training and education do you kind of do at Hinz?
All right. Well, when I started with Hinz, I actually came in as a proposal manager. So it wasn't a whole lot different from my consulting job. I'd go out to different companies. But since then, we've decided that the training and education market is huge. Plus, we need to train and educate our own people as they're coming in. And so they asked me to take over at that position. And we do nuts to bolts, starting with the business development, how to shape proposals, what you should be doing pre-RFP, to writing to win. How does the government evaluate their proposals? You need to know how they evaluate the proposals so that you know how to write the proposals for the evaluators. Price to win is one of our big areas. So we pretty much do everything across the board. What makes it somewhat unique is we always try and tailor our training specifically to the company that we're working with.
That's brilliantly, because you have an interesting experience in a way that you have worked in a lot of sectors and you've taken up a lot of roles as well from your experience, and now you're running a training and education. So which means there's a wealth of experience that you have within you that you could relate it to any customer. Talk us through why it's important to take up different roles and also to get immersed in different sectors as well.
It's one of the things I loved about consulting is that every proposal I did was something new. Everything I did was an opportunity to learn about some aspect of the world. I did a proposal that was the IT systems for an aircraft carrier that they were just starting to lay the hull. So we had to think out 12 years to what IT was going to look like. And you just learn so much. I also learned that when doing the proposal, it's not as important to be an expert in either who the customer is or what the topic is. Because if you're hiring us to come in and help you develop your solution, you're not going to win anyway. We're there to help you develop your proposal so that your solution is presented in a way that's going to win. It's going to evaluate highly.
Nice. Well explained, Ali. At what point in your career did you come across APMP as an industry body?
I joined APMP just 5 years ago when I joined Hinz Consulting.
That's brilliant. And are you looking to certifications and any certifications that you hold or planning to?
I am planning to work on my certifications. I think it's important at this point in my career that actually I should have them before now, but things didn't work out that way. But yes, I am looking to work on certifications at this point.
Perfectly. I think we talked a lot about your early life, overview of your career, Air Force, and other things. Talk us through 3 things not many people know about you, Lee.
All right. Well, unless you're a friend of mine, you may not know that I'm an accomplished woodworker. I love working in the shop. I make rocking chairs that people say are beautiful. And then I have a 650-foot zip line and a hovercraft in my backyard.
Oh, wow.
Which are a lot of fun. And thirdly, and you wouldn't be able to tell this if you met me now, but a year ago, I had a bicycle accident that left me without feeling below the neck.
Oh.
Now, thankfully, I've been able to recover about 90% in the past year, but it was definitely a life-changing event.
Totally. Thank God, all the blessings that you accumulated kind of helped you, and so now you feel better, Lee? Is all? Can you still move as you can before the accident?
Pretty close. I still, as my dad would say, I have a hitch in my giddy up. I have a slight limp. I'm still working through some nerve issues. The neurologists say that nerves will continue to recover for a year to 18 months, and I just passed the 1 year mark. So I still have nerve feelings, and I'm still working through that, and it's still changing a little bit every day.
That's all we could hope for, Lee. Every day incrementally get improve, and that's it.
I'm back on the bicycle, and that's where strangely enough, that feels the most normal of anything I do.
That's it. Once you're back in your own paddle, I think that's how things roll. Brilliant. So early on, you mentioned you grew up with 4 older sisters. Lee, talk us through, how was it growing up with sisters?
Well, I was the baby. We were pretty well spread out. So my 2 oldest sisters, I don't even remember them being at home, because by the time they were 14 and 12 years older than I was. So by the time I could really remember, they were off in college. However, we're a very close family and still are very close. In fact, I had a Zoom call yesterday with my 3 remaining sisters and all 3 of my daughters last night. And it was just a wonderful family experience.
Wow, growing up with female-only family is a fascinating experience. Yeah, I grew up with my sister and my mom. So today, whatever I am is just the strength of the 2 strong females. And then my wife who's behind me. It's totally.
Oh yeah. Well, there's no doubt I'm comfortable around women.
Percent, 100%. Lee, you talked about woodworking, biking, rugby, travel, etc. Other than that, any other hobbies, Lee?
Well, I mean, you'd have to say my family is at the top of the list. It's not exactly a hobby, but my wife and I have 3 very accomplished granddaughters, or not, I'm sorry, 3 accomplished daughters and 4 grandchildren. So after growing up with 3 sisters and having 3 daughters, I was ecstatic to have 3 grandsons. And even happier when my granddaughter was born, and that was just under a year ago. And so we spend as much time as we can with each of them. But other than the family, I've taken quite a few adventure trips. I rode my bicycle 750 miles from Atlanta to Miami 1 year. I've climbed Mount Rainier, I've rafted the Grand Canyon, and helicopter skied in British Columbia. Wow. And then there's rugby. I played rugby for a long time and at a fairly high level. And the last time I played was just 5 years ago in Cuba.
Oh, interesting. Wow. You have been very active, all these adventurous sports and other things. So when did you start woodworking, Lee? How did that came about?
Well, my dad was a woodworker as well. And so I kind of grew up with it, although it was probably not until after I got married that I actually got interested in it myself as a hobby. And probably 10 years ago, I even got more interested in and took a class with a local woodworker on how to make rocking chairs. It's been just a lot of fun since then.
Is there anything, and I'm sure you might have made a lot of woodworks, but is there anything comes to mind that's like, I am really proud about that piece? Anything?
My first rocker, the rocking chairs are, Sam Maloof was the original designer. He's the quintessential American woodworker, if you will. But this one was also, the design was enhanced by a guy named Hal Taylor who lives not far from me. And so I went up to his shop and made my first rocking chair. They're just amazingly comfortable chairs.
Totally. I can only visualize what it is. One day, Lee, I'll come and experience what it takes.
I would love for you to come sit in one. They're extremely comfortable.
100%. I think Ashley is here with us. Ashley was actually born in Virginia, not far from Virginia. So I know you live around, Charlottesville in Virginia. Mm-hmm. So I leave Ashley to prompt a little bit about Virginia, and then Ashley will take us through what we call the random rapid fire question round, or in honor of Howard Nutt, we call it the Nutters round. Thank you, Lee.
All right. Thank you, Bhaskar.
All right, Lee. So I understand you live near Charlottesville on quite an impressive property.
I do. We're just south of town on 21 acres.
And you have a zip line and a hovercraft and swings. Like, tell us about these things.
We call it the Coogle Family Fun Farm. The zip line was actually in about 2 years before we started building the house.
Oh, wow.
You can tell where my priorities lie. But it happened to have a perfect topology to put in a zip line from top of the hill across the field, and it's 650 feet and just a whole lot of fun. Big adrenaline rush.
Oh my gosh, it does. It sounds like so much fun. So do you guys have a lot of family gatherings there? It sounds like it's the place to be.
We do. I'm very proud of the fact that all my daughters like to come. They still call it home, even though they didn't grow up here. They like to come down to Charlottesville and visit and play and bring the grandkids. And so, yeah, we have a great time.
Oh, yeah, I bet the grandkids just love it. It sounds like such a fun place.
They're not quite old enough for the zip line yet, but and I have a treehouse. I have a treehouse planned for them.
Oh, amazing. All right, so we're going to pivot over into our random rapid fire questions round. No right or wrong answer, just quick response. If you don't have an answer, we can pass, no worries. We lovingly call this the Nutters round after Howard Nutt. So we're going to pivot over into that if you're ready.
All right.
Okay, so Lee, is there a nickname that your friends have given you?
I've had a couple. My sister called me Legal when I was growing up, and that happens to be my license plate at this point.
Oh, really? That's so fun.
It turns out was prophetic, because I got my law degree many years after I was called Legal.
Oh my goodness, that's too funny. So she just kind of knew somehow.
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of Lee Coogle, so
right.
It turned out well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what do you miss most about childhood?
Oh, just being able to have the freedom and I won't say there weren't any responsibilities, because there were, but it's not the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely understand.
Yeah, growing up was great.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you are a bit of a child at heart with how much fun your property is.
You got that. You nailed me on that one.
If you could be any male or female sports star, who would you be?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. Dabo Sweeney.
Nice.
The coach from Clemson University, because of his ethics and the way he treats his players, and he grows young men. He's just extremely admirable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what is the funniest movie you've ever seen?
Funniest? I'm at a blank. Funniest movie might be Young Frankenstein.
Oh, okay. An oldie.
Yeah. The Princess Bride is one of my favorites. I don't know if it's the funniest, but it was just a fabulous movie.
It's pretty funny. I think you can call it funny, but maybe I agree, maybe not funniest, but okay, those are two great ones. So what is an ideal weekend for you?
Oh, an ideal weekend is being with the whole family at the Coogle Family Fun Farm, just playing games, playing out in the fields, and just watching my grandkids grow up.
That sounds beautiful. What is the biggest lie you've ever told?
Ouch. The biggest lie I've ever told. No, those pants don't look you make fat. I mean, don't.
Oh gosh. Hopefully your wife is not listening.
I didn't say it was my wife.
Okay, good. If you switch the role with your wife for a whole day, what would you do?
If I switch the role with my wife, oh boy, I'd be in trouble. She takes care of so much and does things that either I have no interest in or she does a whole lot better than I do. I'd probably spend the day trying to figure out how the heck she does everything she does.
Oh my goodness, yeah. If you were the captain of a pirate ship, what would you name your ship?
A pirate ship. Pass.
All right. If you were about to get into a fight, what theme song would come on as your soundtrack?
A theme song for a fight. There's an AJR song that is, I don't know if it's appropriate for a fight. I don't know if you heard me talk about my accident, but it's a song that I kept going through my head as I was laying by the side of the road. The lyrics are, I don't want to live like that, but I don't want to die. And I can't remember the name of the song, but the lyrics are very meaningful.
Appropriate for a fight. Yeah, absolutely. Who haven't you seen or talked to in a long time and hope they're doing okay?
Haven't seen or talked to in a long time. I'd probably say some of the people I was in the Air Force with, played rugby with.
Yeah. If you could make a rule for a day and everyone had to follow it, what would it be?
Be happy.
I love that rule.
Yep. No matter what.
So who are the people who've been the most influential in your life and career?
I got to start my parents. They enforced gave me a great foundation and the moral compass to pretty much accomplish whatever I wanted to. Beyond that, my first boss in the Air Force, who was a general officer, I was stationed at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in the B-1 program office. And I was a shiny butter bar, which is what they called second lieutenants. They're straight into the Air Force. And I had no idea that people had their Air Force careers and wouldn't see a general officer. And here I was in his office talking to him. And he told me that, look around the program office. We have a lot of projects. Go pick something that you're interested in. We'll see if we can get you in that. And I said, that sounds great. And then he said, but I got to warn you, we like to bury our lieutenants with work. And I kind of smiled at him and I said, yeah, that sounds great, sir. And the very next day, he called me back into his office and he said, I'm going to put you in charge of my graphic shop. And I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do to you yesterday? Why am I being punished? But it turns out that I was really his traveling aide and would go with him to briefings to the Secretary of the Air Force and the Air Force Council and the head of Strategic Air Command. We do these quarterly, and I learned so much from him. And he was just a fabulous mentor for me. So he probably had the most influence outside my family.
Wow. Yeah. Sounds like such an amazing mentor to have, particularly early on in your career.
It set the stage. He was awesome.
Yeah, it's great. So what is one personal trait you like the most about yourself?
I'm easy to get along with.
That's a great one. What's one
Don't ask anybody else. People may have different opinions about that, but I think I'm easy to get along with.
You seem quite easy to get along with. So what have you observed lately in these COVID times that's reminded you that people are kind or good?
That one's both easy and hard. Since my accident, which was a year ago, I've been focused on recovery, but it's been filled with just the most amazing people. From the time that I was in the intensive care unit at Virginia, every nurse that came in seemed to be better than the one before. And then there were the people at Sheltering Arms, which is the rehab facility where I was in Richmond, Virginia for a month. And they pushed me to get better. And it just seemed like everyone I met was focused on my recovery. And it wasn't a job for these people. It was their passion. And then the support of friends and family has reminded me how important that these relationships are to me. I recently had my, I call it the accident-anniversary. And the number of people that took the time to reach out to me was just astounding. And people are good, and I'm blessed to be surrounded by such loving friends and family.
Oh, that's beautiful. So what is one common myth about our profession that you'd like to debunk?
Oh, there's so many. That a proposal has to read like a story from beginning to end. Proposals aren't read, they're scored. So make your proposal evaluatable, not readable.
Yeah, I agree with that one so much. And it's such a point of debate with so many people.
There are a number of myths that we work on to debunk that have been at certain times when they were introduced into the lexicon of proposal writing, they were actually very good ideas, but the way proposals are written and scored today are much different than it was 20 years ago. And so trying to get rid of these myths is really difficult.
Yeah, 100%. So what advice would you like to give your fellow bid and proposal professionals who are listening today?
Well, this might sound a little patronizing, but I do wish that I had been involved in APMP at an earlier age. I didn't realize at the time the importance of extending my network and being involved in other aspects of the proposal industry. I had a good thing going, and I just wrote it and didn't realize that I could have taken it to the next level with APMP.
Yeah, such good advice, and particularly if there's younger professionals out there listening, APMP really can be that, pivotal point where you expand so much. There's, so much you can get out of the organization. Great advice there. So Lee, you've done so much. You've had, an amazing career in the Air Force and gone on to get into, proposals. We're curious, what's next for you? What are you looking forward to in the future?
So my family and I are planning a bicycle ride for charity down the Natchez Trace Parkway in October of 2023. Now the Natchez Trace is a 450-mile parkway that goes from Knoxville, Tennessee to Natchez, Mississippi. And it's all still in the planning stages, but we intend to support patients with spinal cord injuries to get them into adaptive sports. And there are several companies that do adaptive sports, wheelchair rugby, kayaking, biking. It's all available, and some of the people just don't have the wherewithal to be able to take advantage of that. And so we want to raise money to help these people get into adaptive sports.
Wow, what an amazing initiative. And it's going to be a beautiful bike ride. The Natchez Trace Parkway is right in my backyard. So yeah, it's going to be a beautiful charity event for you guys. That sounds quite amazing.
Well, stay tuned. You'll hear more about it in the next year or so.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll have to stay in touch. And I think there are some people in my neighborhood who might be interested in doing that if it's open to the public.
We'll make it happen.
So Lee, is there anything that you would hope to discuss today that we haven't covered on the podcast?
I don't think so. You've been pretty thorough and kept me on my toes.
Well, Lee, thank you so much for your time today. It really has been a privilege to have you with us here at Scribble Talk. We wish you all the good health and happiness. Please continue to inspire bid and proposal industry colleagues, your friends and family, and everyone else around you. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay sane.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Bhaskar.
Thank you, Lee.
To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Please visit batchyscribble.com/podcast to listen to this episode and check out any of our other previously recorded episodes. If you've enjoyed today's interview, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the Scribble Talk podcast. We hope you'll check out our next episode where we interview another industry expert and special guest. Until then, it's Ashley Kays,
Bhaskar Sundaram,
signing off.